So as I said, I have 4 children of my own. I have a daughter-in-law. I love them dearly. And the truth is that God teaches me a ton through my kids. So much stuff. Because they're all incredibly gifted. They all have their own very unique personalities. Only one of them's really a whole lot like me in personality, and all the rest of them, and even in Crystal, she's so creative, very differently than I am. And God is constantly teaching me stuff, which is why they pop up as sermon illustrations. They all are wonderful, and they are intelligent, and they're creative, and they're loving, and they're generous with gifts and talents, extraordinary. And I love to offer that up in the stories that I can tell about how amazing my kids are. This is not one of those stories. So right now, the 3 younger ones that we have at home are in the throes of some huge life changes. And with 3 kids, all in various stages of puberty at home, we are learning creative ways of living, right? We're being exposed to all kinds of new and fun and exciting challenges that we need to navigate as parents. We're being exposed to some incredible experiences to enjoy. It's a lot of fun. And for those of you that have children about that age, or have had children go through that phase, you know what it's like. I mean, it's crazy. As a parent, you can prep all you want. You'll never see it coming, right? It just, stuff happens. And so, they're all going through their stuff. And one of the most difficult things I find, because it's such a consistent thing, is dealing with my kids not wanting to do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't want to do anything. I get that all the time. I don't want to. So here's the thing. This is especially true when it comes to chores. Amen? Okay, so understand, I'm not bashing my kids. My kids are awesome, but this is just the truth of life, right? Kids, especially teenagers, they don't want to do chores. And so what we do, we have chores. In our house, we don't pay them for doing their chores. We don't give them an allowance on that. We pay them to read books that we pick, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People, whatever. The stuff that's going to be of value to them. But we all live in the same house, right? I have a job, and yet I clean at the house and do stuff at the house, right? We all live there. We all pitch in. And so my kids, one of their daily jobs is they have to clean up after supper. Either myself or Tracy does all the cooking and all the prepping. That just seems fair. Yes? They clean up. And because there's kind of 3 jobs, they each get a different job. Right? One of them will clear out the dishwasher if there are any clean dishes that need to be put away. One of them will be in charge of that. The other one will be clearing off the table and scraping plates and things like that. And then the third one will load the dishwasher and get it running. Right? That seems pretty simple, right? You're all with me? Yeah, I wish. And what we do, to be fair, is each day we just rotate them. So they're not doing the same job. That's good, right? Yeah, so what we do is after dinner's done, Tracy and I will say, you're on this, you're on that, and you're on the other thing. And then Tracy and I will go do, we'll still have some work to do. We're prepping for a group or a meeting that we might have that evening. And Tracy and I will leave to go take care of that. That's our first mistake. And what will happen is some time will go by, and we'll hear sort of vague yelling at one another and stuff in the background, and we'll go back after a time to check on them. And I would love to say that we walk in and there's ding, it's all perfect and beautiful, like a Mr. Clean commercial. It's not. Usually we walk into what looks more like no man's land from World War I. It's just junk everywhere, the dishes all over the counter, food everywhere, the table's not white, it's disgusting. And we've been gone for half an hour, right? Nothing's been done, right? And they're all just arguing about, you're supposed to do that. No, you're supposed to do that. It's nuts. That's the point at which Tracy or I will stand in the kitchen and just do this, just keep them tracking until the job is done. The truth is it's not really their fault. They're still kids, they're still learning, right? I mean, they know how to do the job, but honestly, most people like to do just enough, right? Most of us want to do just enough. And it's true about us as people, and that is why we teach our kids to say please and thank you. That's why our employers and our fathers and our mothers will teach us to have a good work ethic. I don't think any of us fell into that. I can remember mentors throughout my life breathing that truth into me about having a good work ethic. It wasn't natural. I didn't want to do stuff. I was the typical teenager too. And that's why we teach our kids. It's why we teach them to do more, to be more. We try to teach them the value of increasing. Yes, getting better at life, better at relationship, better at the work that we need to do. It's true about small children. It's true about teenagers. It's true about adults. It was even true of Jesus' disciples. When we take a look at them like they were perfect, they were not. They had to learn this stuff too. But yesterday, I saw something incredible. It was incredible. Blew my heart wide. You know what I saw? I saw a whole group of people from different walks of life, some of them with very different experiences, some of them having had experienced great tragedy in life, different gifts, different talents, different thoughts, different feelings. People who, most of us started off in a very different places. We started this journey of faith. But yesterday I saw a whole host of people come together to shout with one voice, "We are here for you." There was no selfishness. There was no me first. Like the way we're born into this world thinking about me. You ever watch two little kids with a toy car? Right? I saw a whole host of people become one and walk as one, speak as one, for the glory of God and for the benefit of others. What an incredible thing. What an incredible thing. I cannot say enough about that. That is the glory of God descending on a place, on a people, through His children. It's incredible. The Christian life is really about three things. I know we don't often think about it this way, and this might be a little bit new for I don't know, but the Christian life that we're to live is really, if you boil it down in plain English, it's about three things. The first is reaching up. This is showing our love to God, our reverence for Him, our appreciation for what He's done. It's reaching up to Him and saying, "I see it, God, I see it. I have breath in my lungs because of you. I have a wife and children because of you. Everything I have comes from you." It's about recognizing that and reaching up to Him and saying, "Oh, you are worthy. Thank you so much." Praising Him, worshiping Him. The Christian life is also about reaching out. Right? It's about reaching out. This is what the Bible talks about. Jesus said that we are to love others. He said the two most important things you do. He was asked what the most important thing. He said two things. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then he said, and love your neighbor as yourself. These are the most important. So the next to God, the very most important thing we can do with everything that we are in this life is love other people. All other people. There are no qualifiers on that. All people deserve our love. Jesus didn't die for Christians. He died for everyone. No matter how they're walking this life, no matter what they're doing. We're not getting into the theology of sin right now. You understand that it's the love of God that no person can be separated from. It's His love. He loves everyone. Everyone. And we should too. And yesterday, he did a pretty good job of that. It was great. The third thing that the Christian life is really all about is reaching in. And I know sometimes I don't really even think about that. Even as a pastor, I don't always think about it that way. The reaching in is about growing in our faith. It's a new life. Isn't it? We talk about it all the time. Do we think about it that way? Because it is a new life. And it's not the same life that we were living before. It's not just now I go to church. No, it's a new life, which means we need to learn a new way. We need to learn God's way. God has great plans for each and every one of us. And if we're just willing to walk and say, yes, Lord, Yes, I'll put my foot here. Yes, I'll step into this thing. If we continue to keep our eyes on Him, and we keep walking where He wants us to walk, and we keep doing what He wants us to do because He wants us to do, if we keep doing that, our lives are going to continue to change. It's a process. It's a process the Bible calls holiness. It's a growth process, sanctification. We are drawing into God. We are becoming more like Him, because I don't know if you know this, but we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. My love is not perfect. I love great. I'm a very passionate person. I love my wife greatly. I almost didn't get through that announcement earlier, because when I look at her and I say stuff like that, I start crying. Because I'm a bit of a sap, right? Like, I love my wife so much, and I fall apart. But His love is perfect. And I do mean perfect. I know we don't use that word in our English language because we shy away from that, saying nothing is perfect. He is. So His love is, His plan is perfect. It's perfect. We don't always agree with it, because sometimes He asks us to go places that are difficult. They're challenging. They're hard for us to do. We have to walk in things that are difficult. This intro is taking a lot longer than I thought. This is awesome. I should just preach on this. The Bible was given to us by Him. It is filled with messages, stories, songs, and poetry. It is filled with so much stuff. And its purpose, this journal, this diary of God that He has given us, its purpose is so that we can know Him, so that we can find out who He is and see His character and learn about our God. But it is also, the Bible is also meant for us. Those stories and those songs and poetry, the messages that are in the Scriptures are also meant for us, so that we too can discover our character, so that we can know who we were meant to be. Because I don't always live the way I was meant to be, and God has a great plan for me, as He has for you. And so we search the Scriptures, and we're going to find all kinds of stuff that gives us such a great direction about how we're supposed to grow. One of those stories, and I want to share this with all of you this morning. This comes from Luke in chapter 21, and I have a slide for you. It says this: as He looked up, Jesus saw the rich putting their gifts into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 very small copper coins. I tell you the truth, He said. Now listen to this. This poor widow put in more than all the others. All of these people gave their gifts out of their wealth. But she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on. Now, I think it's kind of important to recognize that this very small story is talking about money. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that we could learn about our attitudes toward money and stuff like that. This would be hugely significant if I was preaching about giving. I'm not. I'm not talking about money today. Okay? And I think it's important to know that. That's our tendency. We see a scripture like that and we tend to clench up. He's going to ask for money. No, we're not talking about money today. What we're talking about today is heart. We're talking about the heart that we should have. There's so much we can learn from this poor widow that is so much more important than anything we can learn today about money. Okay? Anything and everything that we do in this life that is of any significance is going to pour out of our heart. Everything that we do that's of significance pours out of our heart. Because good or bad, what pours from our heart determines what we choose. And that, in effect, steers the ship of our life. So what can we learn this morning from this tiny story of the poor widow? What can we see here that we should be? I'll tell you, the first thing that I see when I look at this is a heart of generosity. As Sir Winston Churchill said, I love this, he said, we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. Generosity is one of the greatest powers that we can wield. It's one of the greatest powers that we have to use in this life. Generosity is so much more than just encouragement. It's a heart attitude that demonstrates the incredible value that we hold for others. It's the power to change a life. If we have the heart of generosity, we'll change lives too. Jesus tells us that the poor widow put in more than all the others because they gave out of their wealth. They had tons. And so they gave a whole bunch because they had a ton more. Guys, I picture these guys going up with great big bags of money, pouring them in like that, right? It's what I see in my head. It doesn't say that in the scripture, but it's kind of what I see. They're hugely wealthy. And they just walk in and they pour all this money in. And then she walks up and she's got these 2 little coins. And those 2 coins were worth a fraction of a penny. They were worth what we would say nothing. They're not worth anything. In fact, even pennies in this day are not worth anything. We've taken them out of this country. What she had, compared to the others, if we looked at it that way, was worth nothing. And yet Jesus points out something very different. You see, compared with the big money that was being put in by others, it wasn't worth much. But for someone who's literally scraping the bottom of the barrel, it was huge. It was everything she had. It was giving large when there was nothing to give. And if we looked with our eyes, she'd say it was nothing, or we'd say it was nothing. But it might have been her only meal that day. Could have been her only meal that week. You see, what Jesus was pointing out is that generosity is not how big you can make the pile. It's about how deep you can dig. This next slide photo, I hope you can see it, is, oh, you can barely see it. I wish you could see it better. This is Jim and Marge Hickey. Trust me, they're beautiful. These are Tracy's parents. And they are 2 of the most generous people I have ever known in my life. Jim was a factory worker and Marge was a stay-at-home mom. They know what it's like to go without. They know what it's like to struggle to make ends meet. However, when things were hardest for us, it was always these 2 that would show up. When we were hurting, they were always there to make sure we were okay. When we couldn't afford anything, it was always these 2 who made sure we had what we needed. I've known Marge to drive 6 hours through the 401 Toronto traffic, which is the biggest highway in the world. And she would drive all those hours because Tracy or I was having a difficult week. And she would come and take care of us. I've known the 2 of them to jump in a car and drive for hours to come and meet us because it had been 6 months since we'd been able to have we had no money, we had no time, we had no nothing, and they would come and they would give us money. When they didn't have any, they would give us money to go out on a date, and they would stay home and look after our kids, just so we could get out of the house. Please understand what I'm saying here. Tracy and I have always had people in our lives who had the resources and the time to really make a difference. But it was always these 2 who would step up. It was about their heart. They have a rich life. They still don't have much. Their pile is still not very big, if you get my meaning. But they have a rich life because these 2 dig deep, always, for everyone. In a sense, the entire point of being a follower of Jesus is about learning how to really love people well. But it's not automatic. It doesn't just happen. And sometimes we have to be very intentional about it. We have to purpose ourselves to do it. Sometimes we have to remind ourselves, it's not about me. If we're going to do it, we definitely have to be intentional. Because it can change lives, and we are in the business of changing lives. As a follower, a disciple of Jesus, we're in the business of changing lives. But it doesn't happen without generosity. So whether it's money, or time or a helping hand or some compassion or just being there to listen to somebody, we need to have a heart of generosity. We need to learn what it means and then live it. We need to step out and figure out how to dig deeper in ourselves for others. So the question this morning would be, how deep are you willing to dig? I know I'll be asking myself that question this week. That's a pretty big thought from such a tiny little story, isn't it? But wait, there's more. Another thing that we can see in this tiny little story about the poor widow, something that we should be, something that we should have, is a heart of humility. You know, many times I have heard that pride is the greatest sin. And if that's true, and understand I'm not making any theological statements here, I'm just saying that if that's true, then it would be fair to say that the greatest virtue is humility. I know I've shared this before, but it really is one of my all-time favorite quotes about anything from anyone. It's C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia series. He once said that humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. Brilliant. That is so. It isn't thinking less of yourself. It's not putting yourself down. It's not being a poor me. No. It's just thinking of yourself less. The poor widow is among the rich and powerful. The scripture is specific about that. Again, that image of the people pouring in bags of money into the treasury as she walks forward. Can you imagine what was going on in her in that moment as she walks forward with these 2 little coins? Can you imagine what the enemy was whispering into her that morning? You see, pride would have turned her around. Pride, if she was proud in that moment, she would have stopped her worship. Because that's what that was. It would have stopped the worship of God that she was. Can you imagine what was going on in her mind and her heart? What an incredible thing to step out amongst all of these rich people pouring out this lavishness that they live in, for her to walk up and in humility express such a powerful love of God. Humility means a submission in the sense that we're giving in to Him. It's about opening up to grow. Humility makes us vulnerable, and that makes people scared. I mean, it's a scary thing to make ourselves vulnerable. I don't know about you. I'm going to assume you've been hurt in this life. Because that's what life does. We get hurt. It happens. And whenever we get hurt, we have a tendency to do this, just to cover up and block. We get our Captain America shield and try and block what's coming next. That's normal. That's what we feel inside. Humility opens it up. It says, okay. And that's hard to do. And it can be very scary. In humility, we see greatness in others so much more easily, and we respond to it more quickly. It's about understanding who we are in relation to God and doing life from that place. It helps us love better. It helps us be better. It helps us grow better. We can change without humility, but we can't grow without it. Understand that? We can change without humility, but we can't grow without humility. This next picture is Stephen Elliott. Or should I say the Reverend Dr. Stephen Elliott. Yeah, you can't really see that one either. I'm going to get an 80-inch flat screen TV put up there, hanging on the wall. What do you think? Right, we'll be happy to receive that donation. Okay, so Dr. Elliott is my pastor. And there are a few men in this world that I love as much, never mind more, than this man. He is an incredibly gifted teacher. His leadership qualities are of such a high caliber that he really is true. I'm not just pulling a chain here or tooting a horn. He really is at par with the world's great leadership experts. The quality of his leadership is that high. He loves people better than just about anybody I've ever met. He is one of the single best preachers I've ever heard in my life. And just this past summer, he was unanimously voted our brand new national superintendent of the Wesleyan Church in Canada. If there is anyone that I know that has earned the right to consider themselves great, it's this man. But he would never, ever do that. Because Steve Elliott is also one of the most humble people I have ever known. That humility changed my life. For those of you that have not heard this before, I was a street kid, a drug addict, gang member. And it was the humility of this man, it was his gentle, soft nature with me that opened up my heart. God used this man to speak into me. When my guard was up harder, stronger, more forcefully than anyone else I knew at the time, I was blocked off, didn't trust anyone. All I knew was hurt from the world. And this man spoke through that into me. Because in his humility, he had nothing to prove to me. He just loved me. In his humility, he was soft and gentle and allowed me some room to gain his trust, or to trust in him. In that humility, he helped lead me to a place where I was open enough to receive from him, and what I received from him was Jesus Christ. It's incredible. I owe God everything. I owe him just a little bit less than that. Because his humility led me from absolute darkness to the greatest place of light there is. Humility is something that we all need, but we often find difficult to cultivate. And this is one of those things that any one of us can have, but no one can give it to us. We have to grow it inside of ourselves with the help of God. We have to. Because it means sometimes we're going to have to walk in a place where we could be prideful and drop pride to the floor. See, the reality of living a humble life means we have to surrender to him. We have to. And surrender is not something that any one of us likes to do naturally. And sometimes it takes a long time for us to get there. Are we ready to surrender to him? Because some days I have to ask myself that question in the morning when I wake up. Some weeks I do it every day. Am I ready to surrender to him today what he wants for my life, because he can be trusted. He wants the best for me. He wants the best for you. He wants the best for all of us. And if we're willing to surrender that, regardless of what's going on in our lives, he will take us places we never could get to on our own. Let us all surrender to him, so that we too may have that heart of humility, that we too might be that beacon of light in the life of someone living in darkness. Amen? Told you there was some big stuff in this little story, right? It's crazy. So we see a heart of generosity in this little story. We see the heart of humility. And finally, we see a heart of faith. This poor widow put in everything she had. Everything. But think about that for a minute. I mean, there was nothing left. Nothing. Anywhere. She had no reserve. There was no money left at home. There was no bank account. They tell you she's a widow. The writer, Luke, says she's a widow. Odds are, there was no family. She had no one she could go to for help. What an incredible display of faith. When she dropped in those 2 coins, that was it. Do or die, that was it. That was all that she had. With that one action, she was putting everything into God's hands. There was no plan B. It was God. That's it. How do you demonstrate your faith? Do you have faith? How do you live it? Because, I've learned a thing or two about faith over the years. And I got to say that one of my soapbox things I like to go around yapping about all the time is that the church in North America really needs to step up way more than what it does. The church needs to step up and act in a way that is consistent with the faith that we proclaim. We say it all the time. But as I'm starting to sound like a broken record, as I keep saying, faith is not just something we think, it's something we do. Because when we believe something absolutely in our heart, we do something about it. Right? Not just last week. I remember we were talking about, you see a little kid running for the road and you're in the way. You're going to stop the kid, right? When we believe something in our heart to be true, we do act on it. Next picture I have is of a friend named Paul. And just before Tracy and I love this, is awesome. I should send it out in an email to everybody so you can just see the pictures. Paul and Amy Goss lived just a couple neighborhoods over from us right before Tracy and I took off so that I could go to university eons ago. They are an incredible family of faith, them and their 4 kids. Tremendous inspiration to me, still is. But right before we were getting ready to move, they also were getting ready to move, although their circumstances were quite different than ours. You see, they were in a very desperate spot. They'd been out of work for quite a bit of time. They had no money. Their lease was up, and they could not renew because they had no way to pay their rent. All evidence pointed to their winding up in a shelter somewhere or in a cardboard box. I mean, they had nothing. They had no one to go to. But you'd never know it if you talked to them. You'd never know. They were excited about the move because they had no idea where they were going, but they knew that God had a plan, right? They were one of these people that you look at and go, you're a little crazy, right? Like you got nothing, man. There's nothing going on. They're like, what are you talking about? God's got this. I would have been terrified. I'm being truthful here. At that point in my life, I would have been terrified to be in the position they were in. They got kids at home. I mean, as a parent, you're like, how do I provide for that? And Paul and Amy were both like, it's all good. God's got this. We're excited. Can't wait to see where He's going to bring us. And there they were. About, I don't know, a week maybe, not even, a week before they were out. And Paul gets a phone call. I kid you not. You can't make this stuff up. This is incredible. Paul gets a phone call from I think it was like his mom's aunt, like somebody he didn't even know. It's a relative, like so down the line, somebody that he may have met when he was in diapers, but he doesn't know who they are. But they, yeah, I'm so and so, and this and that, and the other thing, and he goes, oh yeah, you're like my, third aunt, 5 times removed or something. And they want to give Paul $30,000. I'm like, really? This obscure relative, Paul, says, I want to give you $30,000 as part of the, I don't know, she's retiring. I don't know what was going on. But the $30,000, and that's going to be Paul dividing up a bunch of money that she had and giving it to relatives. She didn't have children of her own, so she was calling out, Paul's going to get 30 grand. Check's coming like in 2 days. Before the check arrives, he gets another call from someone else that he knows. They have a parcel of 33 acres of land that they want to give Paul for 6 grand. It's got a house on it already in Arden, Ontario. Here's 33 acres for $6,000. Check came, they paid for it. By the end of the week when they moved into their home on 33 acres of land and built a farm. They knew. They had the faith. And more importantly, they walked it out, right? I mean, they didn't just I believe, I do, yes. No, they demonstrated it with how they lived. They walked the line, and where most of us would kind of get crushed a little bit by I don't know what's going to happen, and you're freaking out. No, they knew. They trusted absolutely in God's sovereign plan for their life, whatever it would be. They knew that His plan was the right plan, no matter what it looked like. And I tell you, that's hard for us sometimes, isn't it? It's hard for me. Do you trust Him? I say I do. Most of the days I live like I do. else, though? Well, I'm not sure. Or I'm scared, right? Because the enemy he's never sleeping. He's always going to be whispering. He's always going to be trying to knock us out. He's always going to try and convince you that you can't trust him. Because that's all the enemy's got. He's got no power over you. Greater is he who lives in you than he who's in the world. He who's in the world. Make sure I got it right, actually. Do you trust him? What about when everything is going sideways in your life? Do you still trust him? What about when something you've been believing for doesn't come through? Do you still trust him? God wants the very best for us, and he's got plans for all of us for a more abundant life, a bigger life, a better life. His way is better, but in that life, that Christian life is going to mean change. There's going to be things, there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be hurdles, there's going to be things we have to climb over spiritually and perhaps literally. There will be trouble. Jesus promised it. If you're one of these people that got some bad theology from TV one time and says, like, I give my life to Jesus, everything's going to be awesome? No! No! What it does mean is that we can always trust and rely on God, that he will never forsake us, he will always be there for us, leading us and guiding us. But the world's going to throw all kinds of junk at us. We have to have the faith to follow him. So will you trust him? To paraphrase the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, other than God, everything flows and nothing abides. Everything yields and nothing stays the same. Sometimes it may be safer to stay where we are than to accept change or take a step into the unknown. But inner peace can only come when we give up worrying about change, trust in God, step out in faith, because the only thing that never changes is God. I want to invite you this week to consider what it means to have a heart of generosity, to live with a heart of humility, and to cultivate that heart of faith within. Because it isn't just